It's Emorja, and we're back for one more episode of Black and Indie, and we are going to be talking about the famous Leprechauns of Color who have come through Notre Dame's lineage. So we've already been kicking it for a bit, so we're going to just keep it rolling. So let me ask you, we want to start with the very beginning. Mr. Mike Brown, you are the first Black Leprechaun at Notre Dame, man. How did that feel making history?
It was cool, man. It was, I'll tell you, Emorja, going to Notre Dame was not a dream of mine at all. And so when I got to ND, I just dove into the ND experience. You know, I joined a bunch of clubs, got involved in different activities. Mm-hmm. And so my roommates from college are the ones who convinced me to even try out and consider doing it. And I'm like, you know what, I'll just do it just for fun. Yeah. And that's really what happened, right? Like, I didn't really have a dream of coming to ND to become a Leprechaun or anything like that. It was just something I did for fun. And when I went after it, I just went all the way with it. I invited everybody to it. And I just threw everything I had at it and said, all right, I'm just going to have fun. And I was surprised. I ended up getting varsity. I got I think it's called gold or whatever it is now. Mm-hmm. But I got it like out the gate. And so it was just a crazy thing to become I guess you can call the football Leprechaun essentially out the gate. So I was a bit surprised. I thought I would maybe get perhaps like JV, or they called it Olympic squad, or maybe blue, because I had no prior cheer experience. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just went out there and had a good time, man.
Before we go any further, so you all three tell me, is a Leprechaun considered an athlete at Notre Dame?
Heck yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We're on the cheer team.
Okay. All right. And so cheerleaders are considered athletes?
Yes. Yeah. We're all under the
NCAA.
AA, yeah.
Okay.
I always almost say the NAACP, so
it's that too.
Every time.
It's that too.
It's that too.
We can do both.
Yes, we had to follow all those fun rules and stuff like that. So
yeah.
The one difference between us and other varsity athletes right now is that we're not on scholarship, at least in terms of we're not on scholarship because of us being on a cheer squad. So for the other varsity sports that are out there, they are scholarship. Like there's rules around the scholarships that those varsity athletes can receive, but we are not currently receiving. We're not a scholarship sport.
Oh, we gotta get y'all some money then. Oh shoot! All
that. Amen to that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
We can just focus on that for the rest of the interview and just talk about fundraising for
let's get into it.
Leprechaun.
The budget. I still hold the position, so sure, run me my money.
Yeah, what?
The thing though, so Lynnette, everybody sort of they get to see you every week, but we never really spoke about your experience as the first female Leprechaun. So explain that to me. Like, how does that feel? First of all, why did you even do it?
Okay, so this is actually a question I get quite often. I would say I did it, to kind of echo what Mike said, I didn't grow up as a Notre Dame kid. I really didn't even know about Notre Dame until my senior year. I knew about it, but I didn't know about it. And from the second I stepped on campus, like it felt like a magical place, and I'm not being paid to say that. Like, genuinely, I was like, this place is Hogwarts. And so from that moment, I just really loved Notre Dame, and I did actually grow up as a cheerleader, and I always wanted to represent where I was going in that way again. And I just actually, Connell Fagan, the other Leprechaun, I've told the story a billion times, but he came on a show that I used to do called ND Ignite, and he was a guest, and I kind of made a joke like, oh, maybe I should try out to be the Leprechaun. And he was like, no, you definitely should. And so that was 6 months before the application was due. And he texted me, and like 15 hours before it was due, and said, you have 15 hours, you better be applying to be the Leprechaun. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. And then I just filled out that application that day. Sam and I were in the same boat. We like saw each other for the whole week leading up, and we were both like, do we do it? Do we not? I'm not going to do it. Are you going to do it? You know what? I am going to do it. Are you going to do it? Kind of thing. But it was very much a process. It was not just something that I knew I was going to do. And then I was like, you know what? I love this place and I want to represent it and I want to do this thing and I understand the gravity of it. I understand I would be the first woman, but I think I'm ready to take on that kind of role, that responsibility, that spotlight, for the lack of a better word. And here we are a year and a half later.
Yeah, exactly.
You're crushing it.
Thank you.
So what year were you Leprechaun, Mike?
So I was the Leprechaun from the spring of '99 through basically my term ended, if you will, in the spring of 2001. Okay. By two seasons. I graduated in '01. Okay,
so almost 20 years later, we had the next set of Leprechauns of Color.
It was damn near to the date, man. Like my tryout was April 9th, 1999. And I think, Sam, your tryout was when? It was
April 12th.
Yeah.
April 12th,
2019. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
That's wild.
It was crazy.
And Sam, so you're the second male. So how does it feel? So let me ask you, first of all, is there any pressure being the second, Black male Leprechaun, as if there are some expectations that you have to achieve because Mike paved the way? Or did you feel like there was any kind of competition, or you just went out there and was like, you know what, I'm going to be Sam Jackson?
Not at all. Mike Brown was Mike Brown. I'm going to let him be Mike Brown. And I'm Sam Jackson. So I'm going to let myself be Sam Jackson. You know what I'm saying? And so I think there was no competition. There was no, it was all love, from the jump. That's how I approached it. So I didn't think that there were any, I guess, what'd you call them? Like any pressures really? Because I was just like, I'm going to go out there and do me and bring what I got to the table.
Yeah. That's what's up, man. That's cool. And so, Sam, what was your major when you were here as a student?
Let's get into it.
What wasn't your major?
So I graduated with a degree in film, television, and theater, but I entered with majors in mathematics, and then I added philosophy my freshman year as well. That went through a long series of changes, which we can get into like the next Black at Indy when we talk about majors, but yeah, basically FTT, it all led to FTT because I love performing, and that's actually one of the main things that people encouraged me to try out for this position because they were like, "You're a walking pep rally," and I was like, "You're right." You
are making some points.
Right, you said something.
You are.
But it's interesting because you sing as well. So before this call is over, you got to sing something. So yeah.
I'm shy.
Oh, yeah, that's what they all say. But you have thousands of people. Oh man, please.
You are not shy.
I'm not.
Everybody knows that already. Like so actually I'm gonna ask all three of those questions. I'm gonna start with Mike. Whenever you all went to other campuses, how were you received? And Mike, I'm going to ask you first because you came at a time whenever, I don't know how other mascots are at other schools, they're predominantly white schools, if they're white or Black, but because you were a Leprechaun of color, how were you received?
Yeah, man. So I think I was received well, to be honest with you, right? So I think what I say is 99 was a time, this was a period where people weren't as bold. And in your face about how they necessarily felt about you all the time is what I would say. So when other mascots that I would run into, and like they all had heads and whatnot, right? So I'm out there, it's me, right? And I think I partly got looks because I was a leprechaun in and of itself. I mean, you got to understand, you're running around for these games in a green suit. It's like, it's weird. Okay, let's just, and then people would look at you. I think some of them were looks of that, like that, and others were looks of like, man, as a Black dude, like as a leprechaun, that's crazy, right? So, but I was received really well, man. I mean, I don't know what it was, and I still can't put my finger on it all the way, but I just had fun, dude. Like I ain't gonna lie, y'all. Like it was just, I didn't care who was in the stands. I didn't care who was there. I was just like, yo, let's have a good time. Yeah. We weren't even that good. We were 5-7 my first year. So it was a lot of times we were getting beat. And I was just having fun with the crowd. I think people just gravitated toward that, you know what I mean, for whatever reason. So I was received really, really well on the road and at home. So it was from that perspective.
That's cool. What about you, Lynnette?
So maybe you should jump to Sam first because I actually didn't get a chance to travel. Because Connell, we haven't had tryouts yet, but Connell is the gold leprechaun and I am the blue. So, and without COVID, I probably would have gotten a chance. I was supposed to travel actually last year with lacrosse, and assuming that they would have gone to the finals, also hockey. Yeah. But then all that kind of stuff got canceled. So all of my opportunities kind of got pressed aside. But I will say that just being the first female leprechaun, people recognize me more. Also, I'm like a light-skinned girl with blonde hair. So it's like I got a lot of things that I know you. But so I've kind of gotten off campus. Like a lot of people have recognized me in South Bend and other places. And so I've gotten that kind of attention, and Mike has kind of mentioned he didn't have the same, like the internet wasn't really like, social media wasn't a thing. So that for me is kind of my travel and how I kind of interact with the public the most. But I'm not going to lie to you, there has been some things said about me on the internet, fine, but to my face, for sure, like overwhelmingly, people are very kind and very excited to just hear one, why I'm doing this, and two, I've had a lot of people come up to me and say that because of me, they're able to have easier conversations with their kids about gender and race. And I was like, I don't know. I didn't understand that I would have that kind of impact. But it's really special that I have. But Sam traveled, so he can definitely speak to that more than me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
I will say, though, that there were some times when I traveled or even when I did games on campus where I would, I don't know, be doing some type of dance move. And then a fan would say, hey, Sam, come here. Or, hey, Leprechaun. But they would usually call me Sam. I'm like, oh, be personal. Come here. And they'd be like, so where's the female Leprechaun? And I'd be like, I'm like,
like, where's the real one? Where's the real?
She's on the rainbow. She's taking a nap. She's tired. Like, you know.
Rainbow. Absolutely.
Lynnette, I guess you're sort of getting into the real world because, like you said, there have been things that have been said about you. But if I hear anything said about you, I got you covered.
Thank you.
I will say, I was at Brothers during the summer, and I was out there with my friends. Yeah, exactly. So I was out there with my friends, and I was like, I saw this one girl pass by in a car. I said, she had the window down. I said, that's Lynnette. I said, but Lynnette, we never met, and we still have not met in person, even to this day. But
really?
So great.
I haven't met you in Emorja. I haven't met you in person.
Well, see, I saw Mike. It's funny. I saw Mike almost in the same area where I saw you. So,
Eddie Street, man.
So y'all know I'm popping up. But so Lynnette drove by, and there was the other guy in the car with her. And I told my friends at my table, I said, I think that's my co-host. I said, but I'm going to play real quick. I ain't going to make no eye contact. I said, I'm going to just sort of see how she interacts with people. So Lynnette was over there just as loud. I was like, God, leave.
This is so embarrassing, but that's so true. If you see me in public and I'm acting a fool, mind your business, because I promise I will be, especially if Sam and I are together.
It's disgusting.
It's loud.
Really disgusting. Yeah.
I will tell the story real quick. When Sam and I, we got obviously the email the same day that we'd moved on to the finals. Yeah. So we're on like the big part of South Quad. Yeah. Literally, like, he's by whatever that statue is in Main Circle, and I'm by the other statue, like that far away, by the flagpole. We start yelling. We're just like, like yelling and walking towards each other. Everybody's looking, and we don't care at all. And we're just like, is this real? Like screaming about being like having the chance to be the Leprechaun, and the fact that we got it together because we.
And the funniest part was that as we like got closer to each other, the volume never decreased. It actually got louder.
For sure got louder, and we were just screaming, and it's just the same ever since. I'm like, are you sure we can't have two Leprechauns at an event, because that would be lit.
So what play did you write though?
I wrote it was called The Tea on ND.
Explain that. What was that about?
Tea.
It was spilling tea.
It was about some tea. It was basically an intersectional analysis of what it means to be a Notre Dame student, kind of defining what that means to different audiences. What does it mean when we say we are indie?
Mm.
Who are we? I know we make up a collective, but can we look further into the subcategories that might make Notre Dame or the experience of it a bit more nuanced? And so it's basically just an analysis of that. It was very heartfelt. It was me, so it was pretty loud and flamboyant. But I know there's like a flip side of being introspective, of being, I guess, true to certain experiences that aren't as represented in, I guess, discussions about the Notre Dame students' experience.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay. So that's how you use your voice.
One of the ways.
There we go. No, that's awesome. And so now that I know, Lynnette, you'll be graduating soon, do you all see, or actually, let me backtrack. Why do you think, and I don't know if you know this or not, but have there been any other students of color who have tried out for the Leprechaun within the past, 20 years? Wow.
Not that I know of.
I know there was other girls, or one other girl at least.
There's one girl.
Yeah, there have been. Well, I know at least one from, I'd say, early 2002, 03-ish time frame that tried out. She got to the final 4 or 5, I want to say. There have actually been, and this is I'm writing a book about the leprechauns, so that's one of my things I'm doing. I'm telling the stories of all the leprechauns in our history. There's been 57 leprechauns so far since 1960, and there actually was one. There's been 2 other leprechauns of color. The first guy is a guy named Ray Lopez. He's from 1988. He was a 1988 leprechaun. Now, the thing, people don't necessarily always identify him as he was born in Texas. He's Hispanic. So he's the first ever leprechaun of color, but he's real light skinned. So people didn't really recognize him as a Hispanic person per se. So it never really was a thing with him, is what I've learned. Yeah. And then there was a guy who came after that. He came after me. I forget the exact year, but they called him Leprechaun. His name was Juan Muldoon. Juan was born in Mexico. So he's born in Mexico City. Okay. And he was a leprechaun for 3 years. So there were 2.
Okay.
There's been 5 people of color.
Yeah.
But I don't know of any other ones that have tried out besides those. There's one guy named Orlando who tried out, got it, but he ended up not doing the role because he going to be a priest. So
man.
Yeah. So, but his name was Castillo, so I think he was Hispanic as well. But other than that, I think that's been it. Which honestly, in this, I'll shut up. I'm hoping. Here's what I'll say. I was on the panel of judges last year when Lynnette and Sam tried out. All right, so I was on the panel, and I was one of my voice was one of 10 or 12 people that were on the panel.
Yeah.
So. And there's a score sheet. There's a whole not complicated, there's a whole system that goes into determining who wins.
Yeah.
So the outcome, if anybody was at these tryouts, the outcomes were right, is all I'll say, right? Like what transpired is what I think it was the right thing. And for people to be like, well, y'all, Notre Dame's trying to make some political statement by having the female leprechaun and the black leprechaun and I was like, no, it wasn't even like that. These 3 kids, they killed it. They crushed it. And so what I hope happens, and I promise I'll shut up, what I hope happens from here is that there are people who will see Lynnette, who have seen Sam, who've seen Connell. They've seen tall people, short people. I'm like a Everywhere Babies book that I'm my little daughter. But you see tall people, short people, light-skinned people, dark-skinned people, people from Ireland, people from so my hope is that more people of diverse backgrounds do try out, right? I think there's this perception of what the leprechaun is, and even I had it. Like I was like, are they gonna pick a black guy? Like I didn't even know. I wasn't sure. I was like, are they even gonna I'm like, I might get JB, you know what I mean? They ain't letting me get the main like and so anyhow, it's all it's a misconception, right? And it's something that I think hopefully the more people that see people that look like us in out front, hopefully more people will end up trying out. So I see the.
I mean, Sam and I had that exact conversation, and I don't think we've ever really talked about this before outwardly, but I mean, that's why when I said before, like, Sam and I went back, and I wasn't kidding, like a week or two, maybe in 3 weeks, we went back and forth saying, like, should we try out? Because is it even worth our time? Do they want us to do this? And I think that, like you said, it's not a political statement that Sam and I got it at the same time. That wasn't the thing. That there was nothing behind that. It just happened that we tried out at the same time, and whatever powers are out there brought us together to, like, make this big, like, groundbreaking thing happen. But that was definitely a thing that they also told us as we started to make appearances, start to actually be the Leprechaun. Like, you guys deserve to be here, and it has nothing to do with what you look like and everything to do with what's inside of you and you loving Notre Dame and representing Notre Dame in the way that it's supposed to be. And I think that was really, I mean, I can't speak for Sam, but I think that was really important to me to hear, that I wasn't just being used as a playing chip, like a poker chip. They wanted me because I had the best that there was to offer. And Sam, of course, like, being on the big screen, like being the gold leprechaun, that was groundbreaking. And Sam is the definition of the leprechaun is not, you don't write a handbook. Like, you are exactly who you need to be. And I've had lots of people come up to me this year and say, like, Sam's one of the best we've ever had. Like, ushers that have been here for 30 years. Like, Sam's one of the best we've ever had because he's not a mold. He's not, like, he's nothing that anyone tells him to be. He's just exactly who he is. And I think that is a good representation of Notre Dame. Not to gas you up too much, Samuel, but
I'm waiting for him to cry. That's what I was waiting for.
Listen, I'm an actor first. I'll cry. Listen, I'll snot too. Get my Viola Davis on. But I think going back to what Lynnette was saying initially about going back and forth, wanting to, or deliberating between, okay, do I actually go out for this thing? Like I expressed before, I could barely remember something I very clearly said on audio, like you just showed, my senior year, because I was so busy. And I think, very similar to most Notre Dame students' experiences, my junior year when I had applied, it wasn't just about, oh, do I go out for this position or do I not? It's also about, okay, well, if I do go out for this position, what is the opportunity cost for putting all that time into this long, multi-step application? What is the opportunity cost for devoting, my time and energy, the vast majority of it, to one thing senior year, because being a mascot, I guess you could make a career out of it technically, but, if we're being honest, most of the Notre Dame mascots are only mascots for, their Notre Dame tenure. So
it's confirmed. It's verified. I verified it.
So I'm like, am I gonna forego theater, my primary love, which, am I gonna forego these other things I'm really passionate about? What can I do concurrently with this thing? It was really like a serious process that we had to think about, and Lynnette as well. I don't want to speak for her, but she went through the same thing because we discussed it. But I think, overall, it came down to, okay, like, what is driving you? Like, you want to do all these things, you want to do these great things, but I think the biggest thing that really sets Notre Dame apart is there's just always this underlying drive that's pushes you. Like, what is that why? Sure, you have all these what's that you could do, but what is that why? And I think the thing for me, and for many people, we share this commonality of we want to have an impact positively, to kind of serve as a beacon of hope that will, I guess, trailblaze a new path for people who might not have thought that there was a path made for them. And I think that was consistent with everything I wanted to do, whether it was theater, whether it was music, whether it was opera, or whatever it was that I got myself involved with before. I mean, I was like, I think, you know, going out for this Leprechaun is worth the risk, is worth the opportunity costs, because if I'm able to obtain this position, oh my goodness, what a platform to do exactly what I wanted to do this whole time. You know, and I think that like being my, I think it was great to know that like my identity was not, you know, what got me the position. But to be very honest, I think one of the key things about being, you know, or portraying the Leprechaun is already having that sense of identity yourself, that sense of, you know, knowing yourself, or at least aspiring to know yourself to a point where you can confidently walk into a room and display that unabashedly, uninhibitedly. And so like, sure, it wasn't my blackness or any other part of me that got me on that stage, but when I was on that stage, you best believe my blackness came out. It sure did. It sure did.
Because you know what, Sam, the thing is, and this is something we'll discuss on a later show, whenever we get to Notre Dame and we see that we're not part of the normal set of people, we tend to fall into the imposter syndrome issue. And something that we cannot do is lose our sense of self. So I'm glad you actually mentioned that, because you all have challenged the tradition of Notre Dame. And I mean, look at where we are today. You know, there have a lot of people who have been challenging Notre Dame because of what's been happening with, you know, Black Lives Matter, and just, you know, voices that have not been heard, that have been speaking but have not been heard. So I appreciate you all. You know, we're all a set of first, but honestly, we got to just carry the torch and let it and pass it on to the next person, because sometimes another issue is once we get into these seats, we don't want to leave the door open for the next person. But we have to realize that it's not, we won't be here forever.
That is so true.
Legit.
Yeah.
Legit.
There's a quote by Toni Morrison.
Here he goes.
She says, I tell my students, when you get these jobs that you have been so brilliantly trained for, just remember that your real job is that if you are free, you need to free somebody else. If you have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else. This is not just a grab bag candy game.
Yes.
She made some points.
You made some points.
You do the snaps? Is that what you just did?
Yeah.
Snap. Hey, listen here. Hey, silent. What is that? Silent.
Can't you clap one here? How you clap?
I'm a clapper. I'm a clapper. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Boom.
Why
I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. I'm the elder. I don't even know how to do it. I don't even know how to do it.
It's okay, 'cause I don't know why my hand's yellow.
They asked you, that's why.
Where is that? Where is it?
Snap. Where am I? Hold up. Let me
It's on the bottom. It says reactions.
It's okay.
This is a new day.
It's okay, y'all.
There it goes. It's a new day.
Listen, though, for real, I appreciate you all. Is there anything you want to tell our listeners, you know, for those people who are aspiring to do something on their campus that is not normal, but yet they have that drive inside of them? Any last, you know, parting words? Mike, I'm going to go with you because I know you always got something to say for us.
Come on, man. Come on. Well, no, look, you know, they say be the change, right? But like, just do it, right? Like, so just because something hasn't been done before or you haven't seen it before that should not be something that stops you from being the person to do it. We didn't talk about this yet, but before I was Leprechaun, I started up a new step club at Notre Dame, right? It was the first class steppers, right? So that was actually my main passion once I got to school there. Just like you were saying, Sam, my opportunity cost of becoming Leprechaun is I had to put the first class steppers to the side a little bit. And so all I'm saying is there was no first class steppers before I got to Notre Dame. There was no Black Leprechaun before I got to Notre Dame. But don't let that stop you from doing you, right? Doing what you feel, you can say doing what you feel called to do, doing something that you feel in your heart to do, just do it, no matter what's been done before, right? And so those are my words of encouragement to anybody going after something that hasn't been done before by someone like them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's better to fail in originality than
I'm telling you,
imitation.
that is so true. That is so true because being yourself, there's a risk because you're vulnerable, and not everybody can handle being vulnerable. And like I tell people, I'm like, if you're going to go out there, if you fall, it's okay. You don't have to
It's all
make a big
good.
deal about it. Just get up, dust yourself off, put on some lotion, and keep it going. You'll be cool. Uh, words from Jackson.
I think, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with the vulnerability. I think if I were to say anything to anybody about, it doesn't even have to be about making a difference, just about like, because the difference is you. I think there is in each and every one of us a unique energy and life force that only we can express.
Yeah.
And it is our sole jobs, or one of our sole jobs, to express it. It's not our job to question how valuable it is. It's not our job to compare it to others. It's not our job. We don't even have to believe in it, because sometimes, self-confidence is not as consistent as we wish it might, be. But we have to remember that if we block that force that we have uniquely, we are depriving the world of our unique existence. We are like failing to solidify how special we truly are on this earth.
Yeah.
And so just keep that channel open, like allow yourself to be yourself uninhibitedly. And honestly, I'm pretty sure when you look back retroactively, you will tell yourself, I'm so happy I did it that way. I did it my way, as Frank Sinatra said. That's a funny story that me and Mike Brown have. But yeah.
Okay. I like that.
Damn the philosopher.
Carmex dropped. That's it.
Carmex dropped. That's it.
I'm gonna pick it back up though. I'm gonna pick it back up.
You know what, y'all? Thank you, everybody, for checking this out. Make sure to go follow us on Facebook, Black@Indy, on Instagram, Black_@Indy, and Twitter, Black_@Indy. Thank you all so much, and go Irish.
Go Irish. This was fun.